Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ed's Auto Garage. This is your host, Ed Arango, coming to you live from within my four walls of my garage here in Huntington Beach, California. Today, we have a special guest. We have Doug Campbell from Superformance and Hillbanks, and we'll be chatting with Doug and kind of following where he's been in his career in the auto environment, and just to kind of get to know Doug a little bit better. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you guys know that today's show is brought to you by Newport Beach Insurance Center. Newport Beach Insurance Center is a full service insurance brokerage that specializes in providing insurance to the automotive industry, from your average grocery getter to classic collector cars, to insuring automotive OEM repair shops, restoration shops, automotive component manufacturers, and even dealerships. We write coverages with many of the top carriers, and we can customize a policy to fit your needs. Check us out, Newport Beach Insurance Center, at www.npbic.com, or call us at 949-358-7990. Also, we're sponsored by Capta IMS, your no nonsense insurance agency management software and CRM. Capta IMS is for the independent insurance broker to medium sized agency. Capta IMS is built by insurance professional for insurance professionals. Visit us at Capta IMS, that is CAPTAIMS.com, for more details. And we'll be including contact info in our show notes. So thank you, Doug, for being here with me today. I truly appreciate it. We've known each other for a couple of years, and we run into each other at an array of different little local car shows and cars and coffee. So thank you so much, Doug, for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure to be here, Ed. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, great. So let's kind of let everybody get to know a little bit about Doug, and where let's go back to how you got yourself started in the whole car craziness, or um, your love for cars. How did all that kind of come to be, and where did you actually grow up? That's something I don't really know.
I grew up in North Carolina, a little town called New Bern out on the East Coast. My dad had a boat dealership, and kind of how I got into cars and just anything fast in general. My dad used to race boats, and there was a little town nearby where I grew up called Washington, North Carolina, and there was a guy my dad used to race against named Reggie Fountain. So people in the boating world will know Fountain for their offshore power boats. But
Oh,
I
the
remember watching
fountains.
my dad race unlimited outboard hydroplanes against Reggie Fountain in the Trent River and Neuse River back around New Bern. And so that's where I got my love of going fast. And then for cars specifically, my brother and sister were like 8 and 11 years older than me. So they weren't really close to me as far as like hanging out and stuff growing up. And I had
Sure.
a cousin though who was my exact same age. So we grew up together more like brothers. And his dad, my uncle, was a huge NASCAR fan and had season tickets to all the NASCAR races. So any weekend where my aunt didn't go with him, he would take me. So I remember going to tracks like, Darlington and Rockingham and stuff like that. And just really, that's where I think I really got the car bug, was going to the NASCAR races back starting in the late 60s and then through the 70s. I was a big Bobby Allison fan.
But so then you kind of followed that. I mean, being North Carolina, I mean, that's NASCAR is huge, obviously. Um, so you followed that whole NASCAR season year after year, I
Yeah.
assume, and you had your favorite like you said, Allison, your favorite racer, and you follow these careers, but at the same time, you're a kid, you're growing up, and you're going to junior high and high school, and um, school wise, what did you do school wise as you were growing up and becoming a young man?
Yeah, school wise, I started working for my dad when I was 9 years old in the summers as a mechanic. So working on outboard motors and where I got kind of a love for machinery. So once it got time to go to college, I went to North Carolina State University and got a mechanical engineering degree. And after that, went to work doing engineering. My first job out of school was for Texas Instruments in Dallas, working on defense system stuff, thermal imaging systems for like tanks and weapon systems and things like that. And then eventually led me to a job here in Southern California with Southern California Edison. I retired from there about 6 years ago, working in advanced technology for Edison.
Wow. So, boy, I mean, mechanical engineer. I mean, you're kind of a you know brainiac to say.
I don't know
So,
about that, but yeah, but I enjoy messing around with machinery for sure. My desire definitely is bigger than my talent, but I enjoy it.
it's kind of funny because my brother is as well an engineer, and he is an engineer for Northrop Grumman, and he'd been an engineer for Hughes, and he is literally he works on secret satellite stuff and space government contracts, but you know it's kind of funny that he is actually a rocket scientist is what he actually is, which is kind of goofy to me. But anyway, that's very impressive that and you were able to retire. I mean, you retired from Edison. I mean, you were a young guy retiring, which is commendable to you.
Yeah, I was 55, and I'd watched my wife Marisa, who you've had on the show,
Yeah,
kind of reinvent herself. She had a restaurant and catering business for 25 years. She had to walk away from it because of some issues with the family. And she basically walked away from a 25-year career with nothing, and then kind of fumbled her way into being a health and wellness coach and started her super luxury lifestyle life business, which she talks about luxury from the inside out, which is really talking about your health and how that permeates through the rest of your life. So I had watched her do that. And when I was with Edison, one of the last things before we got married is I had to do like this business plan for our division. Got that all done. We went away to get married. And when I came back, they said, forget the long-term business plans. And this was in like late August, early September. We got to cut the budget by 30% by the end of the year. And it just wasn't working for me anymore. And I came home and I remember telling her, like, I'm just so done with this. And she encouraged me to go ahead and retire. I had enough years in with the company and at the age I could retire and take a retirement package. And I'm not wired that way. I grew up old school parents, in North Carolina. And it's like, you don't leave a job till you have another job. And,
sure. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but she encouraged me. She's like, if you get the negative stuff out of your life, it'll make space for the positive stuff to come in. And I said, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember her telling me, she's like, but you'll have plenty of time to figure it out. And it kind of made sense in a weird way to the engineering logical side of my mind. So I did. I went in the next day and told them. And so they kept me on through like February of the following year to transition everything off of my plate. And I spent about 2 months in the garage doing some garage therapy on my Daytona Coupe and giving it some love after 11 years of hard use. And then, we were on a cruise with the local Cobra Club up on the Central Coast in Cambria and Paso Robles. And Lance Stander, who is the owner of Superformance and also Hillbank, I'd known him, for 11 years because I bought my car from him, and you kind of become part of the family when you do that.
Sure.
He asked me what I was doing, and I said, nothing, I'm retired. And he said, why don't you come work for me? And so I said, well, we'll talk about it when we get back. So yeah, I came back and talked to him, and I'd had another opportunity in the automotive industry too. And I told Marisa when I left Edison, I said, whatever I do next, I want it to be around my passion for cars, and it can't feel like a job.
Yeah.
And I had watched her and how she did it. and how she reinvented herself. And it really inspired me to like, okay, now I've been doing the corporate thing for years and years and years. Now I'm going to do something I really love and something I'm passionate about. And sure enough, what she said, you get things out of the way, good stuff comes in, and it made room. Lance came to me and asked me to come work for him, and I did. And coming up on 5 years now with him and Hillbank and Superformance, and been pretty amazing ride.
I'll tell you, I mean, you and I come from that that generation that I'm sure when, like me, when we started our careers and working, I mean, we, worked, the corporate, wear a suit and tie type of thing
Yeah,
at the beginning. And, just, being in that whole super conservative, super, uh, regimented style. And, 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 and yeah, it feels kind of good to be able to be kind of out of that world. And I'm sure, I mean, a lot less. I'm sure you have stress in what you do. There's still stress in what you do, but it's a different kind of stress, and it's something, revolves around something that you love and you have a passion for. So bring me up to speed on when it was that you picked up your Daytona coupe, and remember that it was silver with like a chromy silver whitish stripes on it, I believe.
yeah, it
What did you
was
where'd you get that guy?
Viper. It was Viper steel gray with light silver stripes.
Right.
It's so funny because I was never really a Shelby guy, never had any clue what a Daytona coupe was, but throughout my life, I'd never had any really interesting cars. But like my first car was a 1970 Buick Skylark and had the 350 in it, with the hydroturbomatic automatic, and it was a cool car. And you do the thing you do when you're 16 and it's 1976. You flip the air cleaner cover upside down so you
Yeah.
can hear the air sucking into the carburetor, and so it was a really fun car. But I'd always loved fast cars. I had, like a 94 Mustang GT. Before that, I had a Ford Probe GT. So, I like sports cars, but I never had anything really super crazy. But I've always subscribed to like Road and Track and Car and Driver.
Sure.
And I'll never, ever forget this. It's like being struck by lightning. Um, I was going through my issue of Road and Track. It was the March 2005 issue, which you actually would get in February. And there was an article by Tom Cotter on this company, Superformance, and how they had done the Daytona Coupe. And I just remember seeing the picture of the car, and I've never seen one before. And I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I just became obsessed with it. And I researched it for 2 weeks. And the more I read about how they involved Peter Brock, who was the original designer, and how it was the only American car ever to beat Ferrari for a World GT title, and
Right.
just the whole story, I just fell more and more in love with it. And so I found Lance, and at this was 2 facilities ago. He was over by John Wayne Airport off Red Hill in Costa Mesa, and went there and took out a second mortgage on my house and ordered a car, and that was it. And I just there's the ties to the Dodge Viper with this car because Lee Iacocca was with Ford when Shelby did the Daytona Coupe, and it was one of Lee Iacocca's favorite cars ever. So when he went to Chrysler and created the Viper, that was his next generation Daytona Coupe.
So that was the total inspiration for the Viper.
Yeah, and so I did the Viper colors on my car. I wanted to do something different. Everybody does blue with white stripes. And I like stuff that's different. So I went a different direction with mine, and I wanted it to look unique.
Yeah.
So yeah, Viper gray with silver stripes.
But I mean, you were running, after you got your car and you had it for a while. I mean, did you ever use the car as a daily driver?
I called it a weekly driver because I
Oh,
would drive it to work 2 or 3 days a week. And
gotcha.
I was also tracking the car. I think when I handed it off to Marisa, it had about 64,000, 65,000 miles on it, which for a car like that, I think Peter Brock's the only one that has more miles on his than I did.
So is the original car when you bought it, what was the displacement? What was the engine it had in there?
It had a 427 small block from Craft Racing Engines. It was pretty a pretty high strung motor. Back then, I was a little naive, so I was really hunting around on forums and stuff for direction on what
Hmm.
engine and stuff. So, and I knew I wanted to track the car, so I wanted as much power as possible. So it was the the bench dyno on that was like 585 horsepower and 609 pound-feet of torque out of a 427 Windsor, stroked Windsor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good power. And I mean, before we start talking about the car now, is the engine the same now, or is it
No,
a different? What does it
no,
have now?
I used that engine up. I used every ounce of that engine. Now it has a Roush 427 Windsor with throttle body EFI setup on it. Really, really nice motor.
So for those of us that don't really know the difference between Windsor and Cleveland, uh, can you bring us up to speed? Because you're the walking encyclopedia on these things now.
I am on the engine stuff. I'm not that strong, but I know the Cleveland, the main difference that I know of, it's different heads. The Cleveland heads are bigger. And the Cleveland wasn't quite as reliable. I think it had some heating issues or something. And that's why now when you look at 427 crate engines, the small blocks, everybody uses a Windsor block. Dart makes a really nice iron block that's just about indestructible. I know my old engine had a Dart iron block in it, and I tried to destroy that thing pretty good a couple of times. I know at Auto Club Speedway one time run the Roval. There's an infield straightaway where you're got it matted in fourth gear, probably about 130 or so miles an hour. And I went to downshift for the chicane at the end of the straightaway, and it just started banging off the rev limiter, and it's like to the
Bup,
point
bup,
of
bup, bup, bup.
yeah, it was just disorienting. And the throttle linkage on the carburetor, it stuck wide open. And so
Oh wow.
yeah, that's not good for it. Even a rev limiter at that point, you know, you got so much mechanical momentum, it's not gonna keep it from hurting itself a little bit.
Yeah. So when you came, so obviously you had your discussion with Lance and you came on board. And what are like your responsibilities now? What do you actually your functionality with the company?
You know, it's funny because we don't really have titles. We've got Lance and his wife Deborah who
Uh-huh.
run the company. Their daughter Shayna works here. Their son Ashton works here. Um, and a lot of people have been here for like 15 years or more. And there's only like, I think 12, around 12 of us here running the company and doing everything for both Superformance and Hillbank. So, you know, it's a really small company. It's a tight knit family. So there's no real defined roles, but my main responsibilities are sales and then a lot of PR and media work. Those are my
Got
two main things.
I mean, so everybody wears lots of hats.
Yeah. Well,
So
yesterday I was changing an ignition switch on a car. This morning I was wiping the car down and getting it vacuumed out and getting it ready for delivery. Had an owner pick up his new Superformance today. So, you know, you kind of do whatever needs to be done. You know, you see trash on the floor, you pick it up. You see
sure.
cars that need to be wiped down, you wipe them down. But 90% of my time is either sales or PR stuff.
And so so why don't you explain to everyone, how it's the company is structured? Superformance first, Hillbank, is it Hillbank first? How does that play, and uh what are the differences between those two names?
Yeah, a lot of people get confused by that because now Lance Stander owns both Superformance and Hillbank. But the way this started out, Superformance was created by a guy named Jimmy Price, and he's the one that started building the cars in South Africa at the high tech factory in Port Elizabeth. And you know, he builds a lot of other stuff there too. They do like all the stock cars for the South African stock car series. For people that know the Nobles, like they have the old Noble
The Noble, yeah.
M460. Yeah, they built the Nobles, same factory where they build our Superformance cars. There's a lot of other stuff they do there as well, but it's 400,000 square foot factory with about 650 employees, I think. So it's a big operation there in Port Elizabeth. Lance, when he moved to the U.S. from South Africa, he lived in South Africa. His dad was in the car business. He came over here and tried to establish an auto salvage business, but he found out it was a lot tougher over here than in South Africa. It was just a whole different game, and he saw how much people love the replica Cobras over here, and he was familiar with them, so he became a dealer, and so that's how Hillbank started. His dad's business was called Hillbank because it was on a hill next to the local bank.
Oh my
So
goodness! I was gonna ask, where did that? Is that someone's last name? Or
yeah,
what? That's
yeah.
funny.
So that was his dad's business. So he started Hillbank over here and became a Superformance dealer and did quite well. And so about 16 years ago, I think it was, Jimmy Price put Superformance up for sale, and Lance bought it. So that's how Lance became the owner of both Superformance as well as the Hillbank dealership side. So Superformance is manufacturing and distribution of the cars. Hillbank is one of the many retail outlets. I think we have like 11 or 12 dealers here in the US and maybe 6 international dealers. But Lance has right now a Hillbank in Michigan, a Hillbank in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then the Hillbank here. The here, I call it the mothership because we're both Superformance and Hillbank, and I think we're definitely the largest of all the retail outlets for Superformance cars.
Wow. Wow. So, so Lance, is, I don't know if I saw on social media, has he moved to Florida or?
Yeah, he went on like a permanent vacation. He left a couple months ago to go on a 2-week vacation to Florida. 3 days after he got to Florida, he bought a house and then sent for his cars.
Oh
So,
my goodness. But it's kind of funny. I mean, in today's day and age, I mean, you can kind of work from anywhere practically, and it gives him exposure. I mean, he can expose his product line in Florida because there's shows and stuff like crazy over there as well. I
oh,
mean,
he's already been involved. There's I think he's done 3 or 4 shows now. He had and we've done the show every year, Amelia Island, which was last weekend.
right.
We had a booth at Amelia Island where he unveiled the new Mark III E, which is the new electric Cobra, which is pretty cool. Has a Tesla drivetrain in it, and so he's not slowed down a bit. People ask if he's retired, who's running the place. I'm like, Lance and Deborah are still running the place. They can do everything they were doing here from Florida, and we've got a really good crew here and a good team. So everybody knows what they need to do and gets it done. And I think he may be looking to establish some kind of a presence in South Florida. I know he's been wanting to do that for some time, and to
Sure.
have a really good dealership presence down in Florida. And so, I think that's going to be coming soon. I'm think he's been scouting buildings looking for a place.
Nice, nice. So for the average Joe guy out there or gal, um, I know, I know that the cars are not kit cars. I know that they are, I guess they're continuation cars, and kind of explain that to people that don't understand the difference between a kit car and continuation cars and whatever other vernacular is used to explain the cars.
Yeah, because I think it's confusing. Some people may not even have heard of Superformance before or know what we even do. So what we do, we manufacture replica and continuation cars from the 1960s. Superformance started out with the Mark III Cobra, which is the 427 Cobra that everybody's very, very familiar with.
Right.
And then we also do the 289, the nickname Slab Side Cobra, which was the original Cobra, started out as the AC Ace, and then Shelby put the 260 cubic inch Ford motor in it, and it became the Cobra, and then it went to the 289 engine after about the first 75 cars and became known as the 289 Slab Side.
And those guys would have been built originally like in 63, 64, something like
Yeah,
that.
62, I think was the first Cobra came over, was in 62, and then 63 is when it really started getting some traction, and Carroll started, repainting cars and doing stuff, and
Right.
started really racing the Cobras in 63. And then, that gave way to the 289 FIA Cobra, which, he raced internationally and had a lot of success. And then after that came the Daytona Coupe, which was originally a rebodied 289 FIA with a coupe body on it to race at Le Mans. And that, along with the 289 FIA, is what helped Shelby win the World GT title back in '65. So we do all those versions of the Cobra in both a Superformance replica version and a Shelby continuation version. So we build the Shelby continuation cars for Shelby that have Shelby chassis numbers, go in the Shelby registry. Our Superformance cars are the only replicas licensed by Shelby, but don't get the Shelby chassis numbers. So the 289 cars are pretty much exactly the same. Just one has a CSX Shelby chassis number, one doesn't. The Mark III 427 cars, the Superformance car, has a modern chassis, modern suspension, Wilwood power disc brakes, drives more like a modern car, whereas the Shelby continuation car is built true to 65 specs in either a fiberglass or aluminum body, and that car drives and handles like a 1965 Cobra. The Daytona Coupes were completely redesigned by Peter Brock from a clean sheet of paper. So they, they'll pull like 1.08 Gs on a skid pad, drive like a modern supercar. Really a tremendous car. And then Lance expanded the line to include the Mark I and Mark II GT40. Those are licensed by Saffer. They bought the license and tooling from Ford back in the 70s. So those are built off original tooling. They're like 80% interchangeable with the original car.
Wow.
And then Lance has always been a Corvette guy. And so he chased General Motors for 8 years. He won't do any car unless it's licensed by the original manufacturer. And so he does the Corvette Grand Sport, which was the 1963 Corvette race car that was developed by Zora Duntov just to beat the Cobras after the Cobras started beating up on the Corvettes. And so that was a huge deal to get that done. And so that car is also built off the original tooling. Bodies are off the original molds from '63, as authentic as you can get. And so we do those as well. So that's kind of the product line. But the biggest seller by far is the Superformance Mark III 427 Cobra replica. That's probably about 80% of our sales. Although since Ford versus Ferrari, the movie, the 289 slab sides really picked up after the movie, as well as the GT40s too.
So good segue into the movie. I was, going to bring up that your company, the company was very instrumental in this movie, very involved with this movie. Um, um, Kind of bring us up a little bit on how that that association came. Did the concept for the movie come first, and then they went hunting for, oh shit, we need to find somebody that can make these cars, or did they already kind of like go, okay, we know Hillbank's here, and we've got the Superformance cars here. Okay, so we're good. Let's make a movie. How did that all pan out?
The concept for the movie's been around for a long time in various forms. I probably first heard about the concept for the movie about 12 years ago. And I didn't know that this was getting close to actually being a real thing. One day, my window over here looks directly out into the showroom, and I saw this group of people walk in. So I walked out and asked if I could help them. And one of the guys was James Mangold, who produced the movie. So they were there scoping things out and needed cars for the movie. So we ended up supplying 29 cars for the movie, all the Cobras, 2 of the Hero GT40s and 3 Daytona Coupes. We had a couple other cars. Lance's son Ashton has a really nice '65 Mustang that's blue with white stripes. So it's in almost every scene in the airport with the hood up. So he jokes around that his car got more airtime than any of the other cars we supplied. But yeah, it was very cool. One of my favorite things is that the white number 98 Cobra we supplied that played Ken Miles' car.
Right.
Ken's son Peter purchased that car at the end of filming because it played his dad's car. Aaron Shelby bought the little blue Cobra that Matt Damon drove around in because it played his grandfather's car. And then one of our employees is Rich McDonald. His dad, Dave McDonald, was one of the most talented drivers Shelby ever had. And, they have Dave's character in the movie. So Rich actually played his dad in one scene.
Oh, wow.
And, Rich is in his 60s now, and so the only way he could play his 20-something-year-old dad was with a helmet on. So, and he ended up buying the car that played his dad's car in the movie. There's a scene at the beginning when they're at Willow Springs, and this little red cobra blows up in front of Ken Miles, and he shakes his fist at him as he goes by and yells at him. And so that's Rich in his Cobra playing Dave McDonald. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell you, my wife's in the movie. She works in the movie industry, and you know, before anybody kind of knew that this movie was going to come out, I had she brought me like like three, one sheets of the teaser, right? And I was like, oh my god, the one I have is basically all white, and you just see the cars at the bottom and the two characters, and it's
Yeah.
just basically a teaser to the movie. But yeah, and that's prominently framed and hanging in my TV room here at the house. But that's a great story. Um, so were you guys ever asked to be on as in any other capacity as advisors regarding the cars while they were on the track and things like that?
Yeah, Rich was an advisor. Rich does a really good job of carrying forward his dad's legacy. His
Uh-huh.
dad died in the Indy 500. He was a rookie that year, and he was driving the Mickey Thompson Special, and it was a very controversial car. And first lap of the race, he crashed with Eddie Sachs, and they both died in the race, unfortunately. But Rich has done a really great job of carrying forward his dad's history and legacy, and has tons of historical documents as well as just the knowledge in his head of what happened back in the day. So Rich helped out quite a bit. He was on set for a lot of it. And then Lance's son Ashton, when they were filming in Atlanta for a lot of the Le Mans scenes, went as a tech support for the cars we supplied, which I'm proud to say never had to touch.
Nice.
He did help work on some of the other cars I won't mention, but yeah, he helped work on some of the other kit cars that were out there. But like you were kind of alluding to, our cars, we do a complete manufactured rolling chassis. We don't do kits. So we
Right.
can control the build quality and everything, the body paint, everything's all done. You just drop an engine and transmission in. So we can actually control the quality of the car and build a very high quality product. It's one of the reasons we're the only ones licensed by Shelby.
So if I'm a Joe Schmo consumer and I come to you and I say, hey, I want uh, you know, I want a Cobra or a GT40, but I want it to be, black with orange stripes, and I want right hand drive with right hand shifter. I don't know if that's available in that car or not, but you know what I mean? Those type of little touches. I want a gurney bubble. I want,
Mhm.
all those little custom things. They can come and kind of like a la carte, kind of fill out what they want.
Yep, they can come and just spec out a car. One of my customers, you may have run across him. His name's Chris Ashton. He's bought
Yep.
6 cars for me now in the
Wow.
past couple of years. He has the Ruffian Mustang he built for SEMA back in 2019. It's just an amazing car. Just a fun guy and has become a really good friend. He's working on a GT40 right now. He ordered from me, and when we were going through the sheet, he said he wanted it Toyota Cavalry Blue. So he's got a Toyota Cavalry Blue GT40, and he's actually doing the build himself at his house with the drivetrain install. But he's customizing that car to the point. It'll be at SEMA this year. It will not be recognizable as a GT40 when he's done with it. I won't get into it, but the stuff he's doing is super cool. He's doing it all himself in his garage, and it'll be amazing. So when you go to SEMA this year, look for the Ruffian GT40.
Ruffian GT40. So that brings another little topic here or discussion is the consumer. He can either buy the car complete from you with engine, key, start, drive off, or he can buy componentries and build out themselves at home. I'm assuming from South Africa, the body's already coming painted as they wish and all that.
The car's complete less drivetrain. So the lowest
Flat.
form we'll
Okay.
sell the car in is complete done less drivetrain. So interior's done, gauges are in the car, it's plumbed, wired, everything. So like if you order a car, you order it and you specify what engine's going in the car. So it'll come with a header, side pipes, everything to match up to the right engine and be configured for that engine.
Wow.
Uh,
So headers are coming with it.
yeah, you get the headers, side pipes, or with the GT40, you get the bundle of snakes headers and the
Right.
exhaust that's appropriate for the car, because that all has to fit the car, but it also has to fit whatever engine's going in, whether it's a 302 or a 351 Windsor or a 427 FE or a Coyote or whatever is going to go in the car. So, if you want a complete car and you don't want to mess with doing it yourself, we have a few installers around the country that we refer customers to. We have one local here in Orange that does probably about 100 drivetrain installs a year for us, called Superformance. They do an amazing job. They built my GT40, which was a full custom build for SEMA back in 2018. They do amazing fabrication work and everything from oil change to custom fab. They do it all. They build their own race cars. It's amazing shop over there.
So, so yeah, a couple years ago, yeah, it's been a couple years now. You did the Future 40,
Yeah, the future GT40.
the Future GT40 that you
Yeah,
had that you did. Explain what kind of 40 is that, or GT40 that is? Is that because I look at it and to me it looks like a brand new GT40 that was being built just a few years ago by Ford.
right. It's funny. Once I started working here, I think it was part of Lance's idea to get me to work here is he knew I'd probably buy another car. He's always selling, man. And so once I started working here and got directly exposed to the GT40 and realized how great the handling was on that car. I mean, first time I drove one, I couldn't believe, like absolutely could not believe how good the car handled and that was designed back in the 60s. The chassis on the thing is absolutely amazing. So I started building in my head my GT40 and we got to a point where I had it planned out, and then I just remember one Saturday morning, my wife and I were going to a coaching session for our business, and I had the 24 Hours of Le Mans on. It was the 2017 24 Hours of Le Mans on, and I was watching the Ford GTs go around the racetrack in that red, white, and blue livery, and that's when it hit me. It's like, okay, change of plan. I want to put the new livery on the old Mark I GT40 from the 60s
There you
and
go.
blend the cars together. And then over the next few days, it said, well, why stop there? Why not even put the modern drivetrain in the car since I can pick whatever I want? So I started thinking about putting a 3.5 twin turbo EcoBoost in the car, but still keep it old school. So right-hand drive, right-hand shift, like the old school race cars. And so I just started picking my favorite stuff off the new Ford GT race car and the old Mark I GT40. So I went modern aerodynamics, front canards, front splitter, modern wheels. So HRE wheels, 18s on the front, 19s on the back instead of the 15-inch wheels and tires, rear wing, modern interior, modern gauges. And it just kind of developed into a car for SEMA. And next thing you know, it's in the MagnaFlow booth at SEMA. It's getting unveiled by Christy Lee from Motor Trend. And just, it went nuts. I think it was like second on social media for SEMA in 2018. And I even got a nasty letter from Henry Ford III, which is really cool.
Nice. So, I mean, because you look at that car and I look at that car and it kind of, now thank you for sharing that with me because I'd look at it and I'm a little perplexed, a little dumbfounded looking at it. I'm like, well, what am I really looking at? Is this a new car? Is this an old car? It's a new car. It's got the twin turbo engine. It's, and it's got, but there's still hints of the old car to it,
Yeah. It was
so
funny at SEMA. Maurice and I watched people walking up, and at 20 yards away, you see, oh, there's a Ford GT Le Mans car.
right.
But then they get closer and they go, wait a minute. And then they get really confused.
Yeah.
And I loved it, man. It was so much fun.
But because even the headlights, you have a modern headlights on that car, and so that way when you're walking up to it, you think, "Oh, this is a brand new one of the brand new cars." But then you start looking about, "Well, wait, the back doesn't look that way," and
Yeah.
you kind of get a little perplexed with it. You
Hmm.
know, I'll tell you a couple of it's funny what you said about how much you loved the way that car drives. Last week or the week before I had Brian Redmond on, and he drove, back in, I think it was 66, he was driving the GT40
Yeah.
in Spa, and campaigning out in Europe with the car. And he for a while he drove the Porsche, the 917 as
Yeah.
well, you know, the Golf, the Golf one, as I don't know if you can see, but oh, you can't see. I can't show it to you. I have a big poster of it over there. But he made a point, and he talks about how much more he liked the GT40 than the 917. The 917 to him, he said it felt like it was gonna fall apart. You
Yeah.
know, very very delicate kind of a car, very brutal, but he loved. I remember him talking about how much he loved driving the GT40. So that says a lot.
Yeah. If you look at a 917 chassis, it looks like a bunch of pipe cleaners woven
Well,
together. Even the way the seats attached to the chassis, it's scary looking.
yeah, you know, a little bit above a bird, a bird cage,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Very similar to the old Maserati birdcage. Yeah.
right? The old Maserati bird cage. So, yeah, so that's very, that's very cool. So, so talk to us a little bit about how the super luxury lifestyle kind of plays in with uh with the cars, and how this kind of blends together.
That's funny. When I met Marisa, she wasn't part of the car community per se, but she was definitely a car person. She had just bought a BMW M3 convertible, and I started talking to her about it. She had spec'd out, the dual disc clutch and all this stuff. It had the paddle shifters, and she had it spec'd out like really, really good. And I'm like, wow, she kind of knows her stuff, and she loved to drive fast. And so she really embraced the whole thing with the Daytona and immediately fell in love with the Daytona. She had an immediate connection with that car. Um, and so I think from day one, it was destined to be her car. But when she stepped away from the restaurant and started getting into the health and wellness stuff, one of the things we realized is that a lot of people in the car community, they want to be able to enjoy their cars for as long as possible. And, like in my case, I just turned 60 and I have a GT40, not the easiest car to get in and out of. And so, I want to be able to do that, well into my 80s and 90s if I can. So, it's about being your best self, about being as healthy as you can be to be able to enjoy the sport and the cars. I mean, you look at guys that are driving at the highest levels in IndyCar, Formula One, NASCAR, even, these guys are working out, they're taking care of their bodies. And, it shows in their results. I mean, they're athletes.
Yeah.
So, I feel better. I'm more alert. I can make better decisions. And, when I'm doing track days, reaction time is important. Fitness is important because especially the GT40, the Daytona has power steering. The GT40 is all manual steering, manual brakes. So you work for it on the track if you're going to go fast.
Even
And
manual brakes. Wow.
yeah, the car's so light, it really doesn't need power brakes. And again, we try and make it true to the original car. It doesn't have the Girling brakes on it. It has Willwood, really nice Willwood disc brakes, but no power assist.
Hmm.
Well, with the steering, I mean, you're really working the car around the track when you're at speed. So, oh, my son just walked in with his friends. So, anyway, you're really working the thing at speed on the track, and it's just it's amazing. It's just amazing. But if you're not in the best shape, it's not going to be fun. And I want it to be fun. So she's really been on a mission. She's helped thousands of people now, but her core thing is she really loves helping people in the car community
Well,
because she has a passion about it. And the car community on a whole is like the best group of people on the planet. I told her that from day one, and the car community I just absolutely love.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I know is true, and I know you'll say, Ed, you're 100% correct. It doesn't matter. You could be at a car meet, a cars and coffee or whatever, and you could be standing right next and having a conversation with a owner of some gazillion billion dollar company that's talking, that has his car, and you could be a kid that is a janitor at a school that loves cars, and the two of you, you're both on the same playing field when you're talking cars. There isn't this, oh my God, that's my boss's 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 boss.
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of, the car community uh allows everyone to interact. I mean,
yeah,
you can be friends with people that you would never in your wildest dreams ever think that you would be associated with or have a connection to or even meet in many cases.
yeah. I mean, in my case, through building the Daytona, I got to be really good friends with Pete Brock, who I never would have imagined.
He's
And
a legend.
yeah, those yellow jerseys on the wall there, those are
Yeah.
his last photography jerseys from his last Le Mans. He used to do automotive journalism and photography, and he covered Le Mans every year. And his last year, he got his jersey was jersey number 88, which is the chassis number of my Daytona. And he held on to that jersey for 3 years, along with his wife's jersey, which is 206. And he wanted to keep those together. And when he met Marisa, he knew like one day he'd be giving those to us for a wedding present.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so that's really, really cool to have those and to be friends with him. But you get opportunities like when I had the car at SEMA, Magnaflow's booth is like the hub of everything at SEMA, and I'll never be grateful enough for the opportunity I had there. But they do a ton of celebrity autograph signings, and my car was sitting right in front of the podium where they do the signings. And one of my favorite memories of SEMA was one of the guys was signing autographs and comes over to me when he's done, and he said, "Is this your car?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it is." And he said, "I've been drooling over this thing for an hour and a half. Would it be okay if I sat in it?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Andretti, you sure can." And so yeah, Mario asked to sit in my car and hopped in and spent about 20 minutes with me and talking about his days, because he raced the Mark II GT40 back in the day. And it was so funny because his publicist or manager or whoever it was kept saying, "Mario, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go," and he just wanted to sit and talk cars all day. And like you said, you're on this level playing field. Except he reminded me we weren't, because the keys were actually in the car. When you're inside at SEMA, you cannot start the car up. You are forbidden from doing that. That's a big no-no. And he saw the keys. He's like, "Oh, can I fire it up?" And I said, "No, Mario, we'll get thrown out." And he looked at me without skipping a beat, and he's like, "No, you'll get thrown out." I
he'll
said,
just
"Yeah, you're
he'll
right.
just get
Please
up and
don't."
walk and you'll
Yeah,
get
exactly. He'll walk away, and they'll be taking me away in handcuffs.
that's a good one. That's a good
Yeah,
one. Wow. Well, yeah, yeah, where else? It's kind of, sometimes there's, that, like, that, what's that Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation with
yeah.
Kevin
Six
Bacon.
degrees of
Fixed
separation.
duration, whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you kind of feel a little bit of that in the car industry, because all of a sudden you can be kind of like, a Mario Andretti for me would be like, like, oh my goodness, this is a childhood hero,
yeah.
of mine, you know, so it would be crazy. I mean,
Yeah, Marisa missed it. She was over in the hotel room working across the way. And so as soon as he walked away, I called her. I was so excited. I'm like, honey, Mario Andretti just sat in the car." And she's like, "Did you get him to sign it?" And I was like,
oh, I forgot.
"Oh." So, yeah, that's a big regret that I have, is that I never got Mario to sign the car. But I think hopefully one day I'll get a chance again.
So then you've got, I mean, but then you've got this friendship and an association with someone like Peter Brock that has such, to me, I'm a story guy. I like hearing, stories from some of these people that were, back in the day when we were kids and we were watching stuff on TV. But I mean, there's so much history there, and so many stories there that that must be, you must be like, whenever you're there, you must be with your ears open listening to everything that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's surreal at times. It really is.
And and I mean, you think about it. I mean, did you think you'd be where you are and talking to the people you are talking to, what, 15 years ago,
No,
10 years ago,
no,
whatever, you know?
never, never even dreamed of it.
Yeah,
Never even dreamed of it.
I mean, you guys were highlighted and on overhauling with Chip Foose, and the car was redone, and you guys had a whole episode dedicated to you guys.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
And it's so funny because when I first got the Daytona, it sat in my garage for a long time as a rolling chassis, waiting for the installer to have an opening to take it. And then I had a whole nightmare with the first guy that tried to do the install, and ended up having to go over with a retired sheriff's deputy at gunpoint and retrieve my car and all the
oh my.
parts after a year. And I remember during the time all that was going on, I used to sit and watch the early episodes of Overhauling and dream about having them do my car for me, because this was such a nightmare. And I would watch those episodes and dream about having them do the car. And then, you fast forward 15 years later, they I see this thing on social media that they're bringing it back, and I clicked on the link to the website, and I spent like 10 minutes, just threw in a quick application thing. There's no way they'll ever take the car. And like 2 days later, get a call from Bud Brutzman, the producer, saying they wanted to do the car. So, it's just, it's crazy to me that that even happened.
It's so funny. I don't know how many years ago. It was, a number of years ago. Yvette and I, my wife and I, were at the LA car show, and we're walking, doing our thing, looking at the cars, and yada yada. And all of a sudden, oh hey, there's Chip Foose right there. He was walking. Nobody was around him. He was just kind of like minding his own business. And Yvette, at that time, I had a Porsche 914, and I was working on it. I was trying to, I was in the process of kind of converting it to a 914.6 and put the, the flares and all that kind of stuff, but I was struggling. So Yvette goes, "Oh, I'm going to go talk to him and see if he'll take your car onto the show." So Yvette takes off and goes and starts talking to Chip, walking, and I can see them talking, and I'm at a distance, and I can see him talking, and I can see him kind of go, and then kind of go, and then she kind of walked back, and she goes, "No, he doesn't want to do a 914." So, but yeah, I mean, it would have been nice, but yeah, never
Yeah.
happened. So
Uh, yeah,
so
it's pretty cool. And one of the things I got to do right about the time it aired on the Motor Trend app, this was in like November 2019, is there was this huge car show over in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. So I got to
oh,
go over to Saudi Arabia for this show, and the hotel we're staying in, it's like the whole Motor Trend channel was there. So, I had the whole overhauling crew there. AJ, Chip, Chris Jacobs, Bud was there. Um, and we were there while the episode came out on the app, and Marisa wasn't there, so that was kind of weird. But you had Bill Goldberg was there, Dave Kendig, Kev Dog, Noah Alexander, and Charles Cruz, who had the show Speed is the New Black, just Rich Waitis from Magnaflow. Is just
so all the
uh,
Motor Trend
Richard
characters were there.
Rawlings and his crew, and I mean, it's just the whole group. And so Christy Lee was there, and I've gotten to be friends with her since she unveiled our car. So like during the day, the show was like from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. because they're pretty nocturnal over there, I guess, because of the heat during the day. So we'd spend the day, we'd meet for breakfast and spend a couple hours at breakfast. And then kind of our crew was Jimmy Shine and Jeff Allison from Shine Speed Shop.
Yep.
Jimmy and Jeff are a hoot. Rich Waitis, Noah and Charles from Classic Car Studio in St. Louis, and then Christy Lee We go do our sightseeing stuff during the day and just have a blast every day, just exploring all around Riyadh, and then do the show at night. And I mean, it's just so much fun. You know, you look at kind of where I was 10 years ago. The next thing you know, I'm standing in the omelet line with Kev Dog, waiting to get my omelet.
I mean,
So
and those are like pinch yourself moments for
yeah,
yourself, for you.
yeah. Even now, still, it's hard to believe. You know, I'll see Dave and Kev at a show, and you know, at SEMA, we were hanging out one night at SEMA. We went out and went to a party, and then went to the Tiki Bar there in Vegas with Noah and Charles. And then next thing you know, Dave and Kev Dog show up with their crew, and Shag from Iron Resurrection, and you know, you're just hanging out with these people, and there's people, but still, like for me, you know, I have a ton of respect for what they do and how they do it and the people they are. And so, like you said, it's just one pinch me moment after another.
Yeah, I mean, and those guys, I mean, and honestly, I mean, these guys are, I mean, I don't see these guys as restorers or mechanics. I mean, they're actually artisans, you know. I mean, they really
Mhm.
are. I mean, you see, I mean, at least what they show on TV and how we're exposed to it, and how, what we're able to preview. I mean, yeah, they're artisans,
Yeah.
man. So all right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Doug, for doing this with me. Let's, if somebody wants to learn about the cars, wants to chit chat with you, wants to find out of, man, maybe I can look at one, maybe I'm in the market for one or something like that. What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, our showroom is here in Irvine, California. Our showroom's open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Saturday. We have a ton of fun here. Um, People are welcome to come look at the cars. Our inventory is at an all-time low right now because of sales have been like more than double over the past year and a half. It's been a little crazy for us, and we're
Mhm.
having trouble keeping up with production, but we're doing our best.
It's a good
But
problem to have.
yeah, it's a great problem to have. You know, you can find Superformance and Hillbank on YouTube. You can find hillbankusa.com is where you can see our inventory of cars. That's HILLBANKUSA.com. On social media, Superformance LLC or Hillbank USA on Instagram and Facebook. For me personally, Daytona 88 DC, D as in dog, C as in cat, on Instagram, Doug Campbell on Facebook. And if you want to come by and check out some cars, feel free.
Yeah, and if anybody has any issues and they can't, they miss how to reach Doug, and or how to reach Marissa, let me know, and I will put you guys in contact. Um, so again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was great, a learning experience. Got to learn about the company and the products, and I really appreciate your time, Doug. Thank you so much. And do you have a? How about a phone number? Do you have a phone number for Hillbanks that maybe we can throw out?
Yeah, you can reach me 949 900 1966.
1966, 900 1966.
Yep.
That's easy enough to remember. Real good. All right, Doug. Thank you so much, man.
All
Appreciate it.
right.
We'll
Thank
talk
you,
to
Ed.
you. Okay.